Well, first of all, there's a couple different people that are coming through when I'm connecting with you. And the first thing that I'm hearing from is that I have your dad. So your dad departed?
Yes,
Their
their
father,
our
passed
father and
away.
her father.
So know that both souls are here. And both souls are trying to communicate. And I want to start with your dad, and then I want to go over to your husband. So know that, first of all, your dad is saying to me, because they both pass in the same way, but different. So know that he's here because he kept saying, I'm the father, and he's actually leaning down and kissing you when I'm connecting with him. And, you know, your father's so funny because he's here with your grandmother when I'm connecting with him. And he's also got a dog here that passed as well. So I don't know if you just lost a dog, if that was his dog when he was here. It was a black and white dog. It almost looks like a Dalmatian to me when I'm connecting, because it's got these do you understand that?
Yes.
Was it a Dalmatian? How do you connect with that?
We used to have a mini Dalmatian named Precious.
Shut the hell up. Oh my God, I love that. I don't know many dog breeds. And your father, the way that he was telling me how it was showing me 101 Dalmatians. So if that was your dog and you had a mini Dalmatian, know that your dad is there and with them. And by the way, just to let you know, I don't talk to pets, okay? I don't know if it's a boy or a girl. I didn't look underneath. But I do see them on the other side, and your dad was showing me that he was with that dog, and he's so excited and letting you know that he is with, you know, his mom as well when I'm connecting with him. And your dad says to me that, first of all, he's coming through because he says to me that you're so upset that you didn't get to be there in his final moments or the final time when he left this world. And your dad is saying, listen, he says, it's not about the time that I died. He says, it's what happened before then. Because your dad tells me that he was sick before his passing. But he does tell me that he died suddenly, like that it came on him all at once. Do you understand that?
Yes.
And what your loved ones will talk about is what happened before they died. And your dad says to me, you know, I wasn't feeling right. He goes, I was going back and forth to the doctors, or they were trying to figure out what was wrong with me. But you were getting mixed answers. And your dad's telling me that you were getting told mixed things about what was going on. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Because he's trying to explain it to me. And your dad's like, first I thought it was my heart. He says, and then they were worried about like my liver or like different organs in my body, like, because there were organ issues that he's telling me. Oh my God. And your dad is telling me that there were fluid issues that were going on with him. Because I keep feeling like that I'm filling up with fluid when I'm connecting with him. And then next thing you know, I just died.
Yes.
So your dad is saying, listen, he goes, I want my daughter to know that I'm sorry that she feels like she didn't get to say goodbye to me. Because your dad is telling me, listen, he goes, even though that you were not there at that exact moment when I died, he goes, I didn't even know I was going to die, he's telling me. And, you know, what I have to let you know is that your dad is telling me when I'm connecting with him, you got closer to him before he had died than any other time within your life.
Absolutely.
He says,
I had left the room to go take care of an errand, and before I got back, he passed.
So why do you beat yourself up? Because he tells me, you know, she beats herself up again and again and again and again and again. He says, listen, it's not about that. You know, your dad is telling me, Kim, that you and him weren't always close. You didn't always have a closeness here in this world.
It's so true.
He says, but when I got sick, he says, we got to make up for lost time. He says, and we got to make up for lost love between us. Do you understand that?
Yes.
He says, and it wasn't until that moment when I got sick, he says, that I really got to know you as my daughter. He says, and I really got to love you in a way that I have never loved someone before. He says, and I want to thank you for giving me that opportunity. He says, for giving me the love that you gave me and for allowing me, he says, to go to the other side, he says, and to pass, he says, with dignity and peace, because he's telling me that. But he tells me when I'm connecting with him that what you really need to know is that there's not a day that goes by that he's not watching over you. And you get so upset, and you get so upset with heaven and God and the afterlife, because you say, you know, this time with my dad, I was just getting to re-know him again. I was just getting to bond with him. I was just getting to have these moments with him. And then you took him out of my life. Yes. Your dad is saying that don't blame heaven for that. Don't blame God for that. Your dad was actually on the line with death for many years. He says, and God gave you and him that opportunity to rebond and settle your differences and to get close with one another before he left this world. And this is a life lesson for all of us, is that when we go to the other side, or before we go to the other side, heaven gives us time, okay, to go and to repair things that we weren't able to do. Sometimes we take that opportunity to do so, and sometimes we don't. And it's not up to you. It's not up to your karma. It wasn't up to you, Kim, whether or not your dad came in, but your dad made that choice. And he made that choice to get close to you, to know you, and to love you. And I also want to talk about the girl's dad. So that would have been your husband, correct?
Yes.
Okay. He shows me him slumped over and passed. That's how he had died.
He was putting up a light bulb on a ceiling lamp and didn't feel right, and then just laid down and passed.
He goes, it happened all at once. He goes, 1 minute I was up and I was talking, I was fine. He goes, and next thing you know, I don't know if it caused a heart attack, but your dad just tells me, like, all of a sudden he's just gone. He's actually acknowledging to me that he was telling me that he was not taking care of his body the way that he should have here in this world.
Exactly.
He says, and my family's going to get upset with me for that because I knew better. And I got to be honest with you, he's also talking about not taking medications. There was medications he was supposed to be taking or medications that he was supposed to be on. Now, I don't know if that was a baby aspirin. I don't know if that was just over the counter. But he's saying to me that he was not taking his medication the way that he should. He says, and the first thing that he wants to let you know is that this was my fault. He says, I never felt like I was going to leave this world in this way.
Yep.
He says to me that when he was here, he says that he loved life. He says, and I felt, he says that nobody, he says, when it was time for me to go, it was time for me to go. He says, but also I'm going to tell you one thing. This is what he had to come through and say. He says, I was tough. He goes, I was strong, but he's telling me that he already told you that he did not want to have any operations or he did not want to have anything done to his body. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
He talks about not wanting to go to the hospital, not wanting to be in the hospital again. So when he tells me that, it's his way of acknowledging that he either had a close call where he was put in the hospital or there was other hospitalization that he had. So I felt like the reason why he was keeping these, the reason why he wasn't talking about what was going on was that he was afraid to go back because he's bringing that up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he
But-
had heat stroke, working outside a lot and not drinking enough fluids and just not going to the doctor regularly. So he was put in the hospital for heat stroke from working before.
Your dad is telling me, he says, listen, he goes, I didn't share because he was having symptoms. He was having issues that was going on, but he didn't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
He says, and that's because he was afraid of going back to the hospital. He says, I knew what they were going to do to me. They were going to put me in the hospital. They were going to hospitalize me. I didn't want any of that, he's saying. He says, so I try to handle things myself. He says, but I realized that that was the wrong thing to do.
Yep.
He says, but the one thing that he's acknowledging is he says to me that he has never missed out on any of any of the milestones or achievements that you have gone through within your life. He says, and he wants to thank you for the way that you all honor him and remember him because he tells me you still celebrate his birthday.
Yeah.
So he wants to thank you for having birthday parties for him because he says to me, my family still has birthday parties for me. He says, and they put the candles on the cake like I'm still there, he says. And your dad's bringing that up. He says, and I want to let you know, he says, for as long as you live, he says, I will always be there and watching over you. He says, so the one thing that he's so happy about, he says, is I'm so happy that I'm seeing this right now. He says, I'm so happy that I'm seeing all of you together, that I'm seeing all of you connected with one another. And that's what he's bringing through. He says, so know that I'm there, I am with you, and that I am safe and at peace. All right?
Thank you so much, Matt.